It's the Sod Pod, brought to you by Grassland Agro. The Sod Pod. Hello, and welcome to the Sod Pod. Season 2 is just kicking off, and this is the first episode. I'm James Freeman. I'm joined by our technical experts, the Dream Team, John O'Loughlin, Davy Corbett, Lauren Stanley and Claire Aspel. I suppose the key theme of this season will be nitrogen use efficiency. We'll have many guests and topics to maximise sustainable farming as the season develops. Davy.
How are you, James? Happy New Year.
Same to you, kid.
And Happy New Year to everyone. Nitrogen use efficiency is quite a big topic at the moment. Myself and John and Grassland Agro as a company would have been involved in the Grass 10 campaign there.
That's right.
The judging was on just before Christmas there, and that was a major team in it. And it's very hard. It's very hard to improve your nitrogen use efficiency, especially on an intensive farm, without having some sort of a legume incorporated into the farm, like clover. So we went around 10 farms, John, and some super operators there, really managing clover, getting it into the sward and reducing their nitrogen. And when we talk about nitrogen use efficiency, it's essentially whatever nitrogen is going into the system, we're trying to make the most out of it. And one of the quickest and biggest ways of improving your nitrogen use efficiency is by reducing chemical nitrogen input. That is the easiest way. And maybe on from that, then it's production. More production, that just means more efficiency in the system. And I don't mean increasing cow numbers or increasing beef output, but it's just getting better efficiency of what you have, if that makes sense.
Efficiency of the soil.
Efficiency of the soil, yeah. Efficiency of the animal. Look, there's an awful lot of things in the system that you have to get right and improve on, and everything can be improved on. But look, reducing chemical nitrogen input is the big ticket item, and that is going to be at the fore going forward.
Yeah.
Fair play, Davey. That's a very good synopsis. I suppose nitrogen use efficiency, I was calculated, it's just the amount of nitrogen that comes in versus the amount of nitrogen that goes out, and that's mainly in protein in beef or in dairy products. So very, very simple. It's easy to calculate it. We've obviously we're using it as a team ourselves in the site sustainability program. We're trying to bring that onto farm, get farmers more familiar with their own figure. So basically, you're increasing your nitrogen use efficiency, you're reducing your end surplus. So that's the difference between the two, that nitrogen is maybe lost to the atmosphere either way. So I suppose that's what we're focusing on in a good bit of detail this year. Really looking forward to it. We have a good lineup now. Whether we get all of them, if we get Ger Lucknan to come on, I'm not sure, James. But listen, we're going to break the bank, because
that's huge.
That would be the one.
The check is wrote.
Yeah, it's blank. We would sign.
Your own number now, John.
Yeah. Could be a phone number you come out with, but we'll pay it, because, a very passionate man about. We literally made no contact with anyone belonging to him as well, but we're speculating that we'll try and get him, and hopefully we will, Jim.
And if not yours,
because the other lad let us down, the Laker Gale himself. Episode 4 of the new season coming. Mr. Liam Sheedy, your first cousin.
We're very disappointed with Liam Sheedy. I've had a couple of conversations with him, and he's a bit concerned that our podcast is a bit too big for him, to be honest. You know what I mean? So
you couldn't be bothered wasting his time more, like. But
if Joe's too busy, quite possibly might go to Marty Brown's.
Yeah, Anthony Daly. But listen, as I said it before, Liam's obviously driven by the passion for the game, and obviously has too much going on there that he can't carve out 15 minutes for us, so. Or else he's
no time for James.
No, he's better paying jobs. That's all that's wrong with that.
Maybe two statements through there.
The modern football now, Jim, was a stretch. But no, listen, it's great to be back, recharged after the Christmas break. I suppose it was good to get a break away, and listen, the challenges haven't gone away, so it's really trying to do the best we can on farm.
So, Lauren, when you joined the P&M team, you came as an advisor from Grassland Agro. You've seen a lot of stuff happening last year.
Yeah, no, definitely. Last year was an unusual one with everything that was going on with the whole fertiliser season and the pressures that were on with prices and everything last year. And look, this year that's coming on it's looking like it's going to be a tricky one as well. There's a lot of soil sampling going on at the moment. Lads are flat out, and I suppose with the new regulations coming and everyone having to soil test for nitrates is putting on a lot of pressure. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting year this year, no doubt.
Yeah, and look, I suppose with all of those pressures that were there, whether it be supply, price points, etc., I think if we look at some of the positives that have come out, slurry management has gone through the roof. You know, we're looking at soil samples been took way more serious than ever, and they're the few bits that can, I suppose, relieve the pressures on these pricing and supply issues that we're seeing as well, which is great, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think maximising what we have on farm with our slurry is going to be more important than ever. And look, lad, everyone within the company anyhow is going to be sick of soil sampling by the end of it, but it's probably one of the most important things that we can do on farm to get an idea of our soil fertility.
And you were doing up that figure there, Lauren, one day on the value of slurry. It was €50 or something, 1,000 gallons you came up with, which is colossal, and it's essentially free nutrients we have inside the farm gate. So using that.
Yeah, exactly. And like if you think of your suboptimal soil fertility is about 1.6 tonnes of dry matter, and if you think of that in the context of how much grass can I grow from that optimal soil fertility, you're looking at about the cost of grass at the moment. John, what's coming in that?
Yeah, sure, it's probably closer to €200. It hasn't been updated, I've noticed, Lauren, from Teagasc, because but obviously the price of concentrate has gone up, the price of milk has gone up, and
the most recent is €120 for graze grass and €220 for silage.
Yeah.
That's what was coming out there
for beef.
Swords for the future.
For beef.
No, well, that's not your profitability now, but that's just the value of growing, say, a tonne of grasses. But then your profitability is potentially maybe €250 for every
per tonne
extra tonne utilised.
Yeah, so that's completely different. You know, obviously we have to grow, but I think it's a great point, Lauren, because you quite rightly pointed out there, and we're probably guilty of this, that we were going on about soil fertility. We never probably fully explained what it actually means to a farm and the farm system. So it's actually exactly as Lauren said, that 1.6 tonne dry matter per hectare yield penalty is what the research shows us from having suboptimal either P or K. And if you're suboptimal for both your goose altogether, and going back into your point there, you're eroding the efficiency of your nitrogen, because we sometimes vary maybe the P and K applications onto paddock. We never ever changed nitrogen applications. And should we be applying the same amount of nitrogen is the debate to a paddock that has less potential to grow because of soil fertility or pH. Because if anyone listening to this goes through their pasture base and their annual tonnage report, there's going to be a range between the highest performing paddock and the top performing paddock. And quite often, Dave, they get the same amount of nitrogen. And this is where we're talking about nitrogen use efficiency, Claire, that if that has got the same amount of nitrogen, your poorest performing paddock and your top performing paddock.
Yeah, so you have more potential then to lose that nitrogen in the poor performing paddock, be more inclined to be lost through leaching down through the soil, or even depending on your nitrogen product, it could be lost to the atmosphere. And those poor performing paddocks that won't efficiently use your nitrogen, so it's a bit more potential for loss.
Yeah, and there's probably a couple of aspects to that. Like, so we have our poor performing paddocks, we have both the soil factors and the sward factors. And we probably focused more on the sward factors historically because it was easier. We could see it. You know, if you had a high level of poor performing grasses and maybe a lower perennial ryegrass content. But I suppose, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to work on both aspects rather than just focusing on the sward, also the soil.
And we shouldn't look at the regulation and the reductions in nitrogen as a bad thing, because there are a lot of inefficiencies on farm. Like I see it with some of the top farms or top farmers I've met. Like there are inefficiencies on every farm. Maybe soil fertility is good, but maybe it's just manipulating when you put out those P's or K's. it might be grazing, maybe changing up your grazing situation or scenario there in the springtime or the back end, trying to utilise, even if it's only half a ton, that's another €125 a hectare, profitability in your farming system. So there's a lot that can be done. Claire, you said about the products that you're using, a lot of efficiency can be gained there. So look, I do think that we do need to be looking more towards the NUE figure going forward, because we are going to be restricted in how much we can spread. We're at 10% reduction there now off what our chemical was, but that's going to increase going forward.
But that's effectively what the nitrates is doing, is driving an increase, because we have a reduction in the chemical end that we can apply, but we also have a reduction on the amount of end that we can import in the form of concentrate feed as well, Dave, with the changes in the crude protein allowances. But like, this is really important. Anyone listening, like, the slurry deadline, the slurry season is open in parts of the country, in zones A and zone B, by the time we get to the 20th of January as we record this live from studio. No editing here at all. But and we're just waiting for the final zone to open up then as well. But I suppose the situation is that, like, we're getting better use out of that slurry is very, very important. But also, like, understanding the value, as you said earlier, is key. But understanding the regulations that are coming is tricky stuff. Like, there's nearly an agronomy side that we have to get so much better off, and then there's all the red tape. And recently we've been around to Alder Evo, myself and Shawnee Mack went up there in the last couple of weeks, and we were chatting to them, and like, the amount of stuff that's coming when we were researching it, it's not that easily available either, is the problem. So it took a lot of time to put it all together. Dave, you broke the back in it to start with, but we tied it up. So, like, some of the headline things: 150 kilos of, if you're stocked at 150 kilos of organic nitrogen per hectare per year, from the 1st of January 2023, you have to apply all slurry with less. So that's what we're talking about. The deadline is here, it's open. If you're in that bracket over 150, you have to apply all your slurry with less. Previously it was just lads in derogation. Next year it's going to be farmers stocked over 130, Dave. That's basically, that's 28,000 farmers in the country will have to spread all their slurry with less. If you take the 10 or 11,000 in that bracket that you were saying.
Yeah, between 1.5 livestock units at 2, is it? We're talking about, yeah, and then the rest of them that are in derogation. So that is a lot of farmers, but these are the measures we have to take to.
It'll probably get lower as well, won't it?
Yeah.
Eventually, it'll be the splash bed is goose, like, I'd say. Would you?
That's only a matter of time, really. Like, it is, to be fair.
For sure. Yeah. On a practical level, how's Pat getting on with it?
Good, yeah.
You nearly fell out the first couple of weeks. You had the.
We did, yeah, we did. We actually got a new macerator there the other day, thank God. So,
but how did you break it already?
No, we didn't break it, I don't know. It just had to be changed for some reason or another, I don't know. I wasn't told anyway. But,
your phone went through it.
No, I didn't. But no, getting on well now with the dribble bar, John. And I thought it was going to be quite a struggle at the start, but no, because I suppose, when you talk to farmers, talk to contractors, it's often bale silage is an issue with low emission slurry spreading with the macerator. We don't have any issues with it at all, to be honest. So yeah, it's good, yeah. And to be fair now, there's a lot more interest in it than I thought there would be with farmers. Farmers want to use it, which is very good. And look, I think it's something that I don't know how you say, but like visual, because you can't see the slurry and you can't smell the slurry when you use low emission slurry spread. And I think that's one thing that always, like, every time you use it on a farm or for a farmer, that's one thing that they always say. Every farmer will say it. We might use it 2 or 3 years now with a farmer, and still they'd say it, like, every time you're going to do the slurry for them. And that is a sure sign that it is working, and emissions are being reduced.
Yeah, brilliant. And we also have another contracting family business in with us here today, in Stanley Agri.
The sponsors of season 2 of the Sod.
Yeah, Pat Corbett's getting out. Pat Corbett hasn't paid his bill yet.
You're getting moved, Dave.
Stanleys are way bigger than what we are.
Huh?
Yeah, we actually don't do slurry there, John. No.
Too dirty.
Yeah, no.
Too busy sewing.
There's not enough money in it, John.
Yeah, they're too cute.
They're hungry.
No, Dave, what you were saying there about the low emission slurry spreading and the kind of impact it's after having on farm. Like when you're traditionally spreading slurry, when you get that smell, like that's the ammonia that you're smelling, do you know? So you're technically losing your nitrogen, and your nitrogen use efficiency becomes lowered. So, do you know, it's a great concept there that's kind of helping with your nitrogen use efficiency. And as well as that, with the slurry, we're trying to tap into the background soil nitrogen release and kind of making the most out of what's coming from the soil.
Definitely, and even just to explain, maybe, because it might be a small bit of a difficult concept maybe to get your head around, like, you know, why are you losing ammonia using a splash plate as opposed to a dribble bar. So when there's kind of three forms of nitrogen essentially. Urea, which we're all fairly familiar with, it's going out in the bag. We've ammonium, which can be taken up by the plant, but it's not the preferred option. And then we've nitrate. But when you're going from ammonium to nitrate, you have a gas phase, which is ammonia, and when that gas is exposed in the air, obviously, there is chances that it can be lost. So what you want to do is get as much contact of that slurry with the soil, because the soil actually has the ability to hold onto it and retain that ammonia on the particles in the soil itself. Essentially how it happens, you just don't want it exposed. Another problem with splash plate is that you've a layer which is, how would you explain it? Jesus. It's almost
a layer of slurry.
Yeah, hold on, I have it out. So when you
It's very fibrous.
when you use
I'm never going to live that one down.
So when you use a splash plate and you put it out across a carpeted grass or a matted grass, you almost have a tunnel underneath. So there's almost like a wind tunnel for that to take the gas up, and that is another issue with the splash plate. So I think Teagasc have a lot of research done on the Mach curve and what way or what the technologies are at the moment to reduce all these emissions. So look, it's just trying to get those right, and they are there, but we're not really implementing them as good as we could on farm.
Well, 50% of all on Irish farms was applied with less, Dave. I'd say that's not
very
too bad.
powerful, isn't it, so far?
I think the average retention rate, though, for a splash plate is around 46, and then an average retention rate for a low emission slurry spreader is about 65. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, so depending on when it's... So Stan Lawler wrote the book on low emission slurry spreading, who was obviously part of the Grassland Agro family not so long ago. But effectively, yeah, you double the value of your slurry if you spread it with less in springtime. So the time of year and the method of application, you almost double the quantity of slurry. There's also the backgrounds, but I'd say, listen, we have the slurry kind of covered there, and we'll come back to it again in other episodes, but key messages there: over 150 kilos of organic nitrogen per hectare. You have to spread your slurry with less. The deadline is, some people are spreading now. Bit of argy-bargy there, I noticed on Twitter with lads in the rain going, like, we can't be, it's just such a poor image for agriculture to be going out with the rain gun, and people laugh and say, when you're caught, you're caught, but we shouldn't be getting caught anymore. It's too high stakes. One leg can do so much damage. Goes up in social media there now, Jim, and we're goose like. Everyone painting everyone with one brush, and they don't care whether you're a dairy farmer or a beef farmer. The consumer above in Dublin just think farmers are all out. Do you know, a farmer, like, they don't differentiate between high input dairy farmers or beef farmers or sheep farmers, or they just think farmers. So we have to be more responsible in that sense. Yeah. The other thing that, just in relation to the soil sample and the regulations, is that any farmer over 130 kilos of organic nitrogen per hectare is assumed index 4 as opposed to index 3 in 2023. So if you don't have a soil sample, you can't prove that you have a requirement for either imported phosphorus. So that's in the form of slurry or in the form of chemical fertiliser. So
you need soil samples from the last 4 years.
Yeah, and Dave, the other thing is, but the thing about that is, like, you need the soil samples and you need to do a bit of a nutrient management plan, because the department haven't explicitly said you need to do one, but it's like saying, Dave, you need to pay tax, and you turn around to the taxman and give him a $5 there every month when you get your wages. Like, do you know?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's the corporate contracting or whatever it is I say. But like it's not just saying like you have to try and to understand based on your stocking rate and the field use, that's what's really going to having a nutrient management plan in place coming on the soil sustainability program. We'll be able to give you the guidance on that to explain how much P you're actually allowed to buy, because a lot of farmers unfortunately are going to go in, they're going to buy their 18-6-12 or their 10-10-20 dry stock farmers I'm talking about now, and they could run themselves into bother because they just don't have the soil samples to prove that they need it, and they might still need it. But unless you can prove it, that's the thing, isn't it, Claire? Like, you have to be able to prove that you have the requirement for the nutrient, and it's the same with the slurry as well.
Yeah, that's right, John. Yeah, so if you're in Index 4 for your P or K, you're just not going to be allowed to buy in this phosphorus, and your soil might need it. So then you're lacking in your nutrients to grow this big crop of grass, and you're just losing out. So soil sampling is a must for anyone over that 150.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so we have to be on the ball there, trying to get the soil samples done. The other thing on slurry and exporting slurry is that they've halved the value of the nitrogen per ton, which effectively means you have to export double the amount of slurry. And it's the same thing if you're exporting slurry to a farmer. We'll say I export slurry to Lauren. Lauren has to prove that she has the requirement for the phosphorus. So again, Lauren needs to have soil samples, which is very important. And then the way that you physically do it has changed. So what you have to do is you have to do it online. So I go on to my ag food. I say that I'm transferring it to Lauren's ag food. Lauren gets a text. She has to go on and accept it. So there's a lot of changes in relation to how things are happening. And obviously the massive one, and we did think it would be in by now. We had planned that our first episode was going to be explaining it in more detail. But is the fertiliser register.
Yeah.
We were preparing that we would probably pull this forward, Jim, in our plans.
That's right,
from middle of last year. That we would have one probably one of the last episodes in December, and then a follow up in January because the rules have changed. There's no doubt in my mind that the fertiliser register will come. It's just a matter of time. So there's an interim review of the nitrates coming up soon. If the fertiliser register isn't in place in Ireland because it was proposed as one of the measures, we could lose the derogation. So there's no doubt that it will come, but in the form that will come, it's effectively a unique identification of farmer to purchase fertiliser so that they can follow it out to the farm.
And if derogation was to go, John, that would be absolutely crippling for Irish agriculture. The amount of farmers that would have to, there's, what is it, James, 8,000 farmers in derogation.
That's right, yeah.
All those farmers would have to reduce stocking rate to come under the maximum of 170. So we have an allowance to go over 170. So you'd be talking 8,000 farmers reducing stocking rate. So that would be crippling. So water quality is dictating that essentially. As John was saying there on the value of slurry and exporting slurry, look, to be fair, it has to be done in some situations. Those farmers that are exporting to keep under derogation, but with the way cow banding is going and whatnot, they probably will be brought into it and well into it. So even just to put a figure around it, if you're exporting 50,000 gallons of slurry, the value of that is essentially $2,500. So it's a lot of money you're sending out to farm gate. So just keep that in mind as well. Just, John, we were talking about slurry there a second ago, and I wanted to make a comment there, but like, I'd say if there's a lot of farmers using the rain going still, and if you go to Kilmaley next week, probably like been in the plains of New Zealand, Canterbury,
incorrect.
To be like irrigation systems everywhere.
Never happened. Sure, it was up your side that your man found the offending.
The what?
The big argy on Twitter. Your man, it was up North Clare, it wasn't in West Clare. We wouldn't dream of doing that like that day. We would
not. You came from North Clare originally, John.
What?
You came from North Clare yourself.
I know, sure, we were the best of them. But I suppose, like, listen, the rain gun, it's all funny, we laugh about it, but like, listen, and I'm a bit of a hypocrite, obviously, having seen people do it and not get too excited about it, but I suppose we have to be just more conscious of the looking in from the outside. I suppose just to wrap up though, Dave, the key things are with the fertiliser register that it will come, that it is a unique identification, which will probably be your herd number, to track the fertiliser that you buy. And then it's just in relation to your limits and understanding your limits. So sometimes, and again, it's a bit like the rain gun, we maybe, could get around some of those sort of aspects. But we have to be 100% on the ball now, or else we risk losing our derogation if the farmer's in derogation, or else we risk €5,000 fine or losing a significant proportion of the BPS. And I suppose that is going to be based on accurate soil samples, up to date, the finer pints with the banding coming in as well, and we haven't even had a chance to touch on that. But there's huge challenges there in relation to the regulatory side. The register is coming. It's going to be in probably by March or April or whenever, but that's going to track. But just in relation to how the register works, is that there's not going to be an alarm system above in the department house in Dublin or wherever the HQ is that's going to start going off, and there'll be a SWAT team heading out to Lauren Stanley's farm to arrest her for going a kilo over on her phosphorus allowance.
Again.
Yeah. It used to be for something not too bad this time, but so it's not that they're going to rush down to Lauren, arrest Lauren, put her in jail and put her on the front of the journal for exceeding her limits, or the same for Claire. What is going to happen is that Claire might go a kilo over on the nitrogen. The department will be around and they'll do a cross compliance inspection and say, Claire, you went a kilo over, now then they fine you. So it's they can do it retrospectively. It's not going to be like a limit. It's up to you to police yourself and understand your own limit. It's the farmer's own responsibility. But I suppose having the accurate information there is crucially important. So there's a big topic there. It's a lot of practical implications in how farmers purchase and use fertiliser. So it's probably one that we can come back to in more detail.
And Crease stakes as well, Jonathan.
It's a shame, Dave. I've driven more crooked crease. But you helping me as well, Dave. The accuracy seemed to go down by.
James O'Loughlin at his fear level.
We drove over Dave's phone the last time we went at it.
Crooked fencing.
Yeah, that's our crooked fencing limited. Yeah,
I said it'll be the last bundle of Crease stakes ever bought in the country from John O'Loughlin.
Yeah, I haven't.
John has them, so if you want to buy your Crease stakes. But Lauren, just on the P build up, I don't think farmers are actually aware, and even those farmers that are 130 and above that stocking rate.
Yeah, so I'd be encouraging most farmers to, if they can, to apply for the P build up, where they can get an additional P allowance on their index 1s and 2s or their suboptimal ranges, so they can apply for it, and they'll P build up scheme, they'll be allowed an additional 50 kilos on an index 1 and 30 kilos on an index 2 if they apply for that scheme. So I'd be encouraging any farmers that can apply for it to do and take advantage of it, because it's going to be very tight.
And that's any farmer over 1.5 livestock units per hectare. And probably the easiest thing to do is just get onto your local advisory office or Teagasc advisor. They run those training days regionally across the country throughout the year. So,
it'll be and
if you do, it'll actually last. I think it lasts for 4 or 5 years when you do complete the training. So definitely well worthwhile, especially with the way how tight regulation is going, allowances and whatnot.
You want to do it while we have it though.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be like the derogation anyhow, so definitely apply for it.
Yeah.
Claire, any last thoughts before we wrap up?
Try to get those cell samples done, get them in, realise what index you are, so what P's and K's can go out or what should go out to get that most of your nitrogen and grow the best crop you can grow.
Lovely, Claire. Lads, it's great to be back. Season 2 is alive. I look forward to running out the rest of the year. Mind yourselves out there. Farm smart, farm safe. Hey, thanks for listening to the Sod Pod. We hope you enjoyed it. To find out more, head over to www.grasslandagro.ie or check out our social channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube. That's all for this episode. See you next time.